I'm going to break the tape on the first. Oh, that tape is greatly compromised.
Locutors of Trek. On screen.
Hello and welcome to Locutors of Trek, Trekle Trunk, where
Hello!
we dig into the Trekle Trunk and see what we find. We could find
Indeed.
toys, we could find comics, which is what we usually find,
Yeah.
and then we talk about them. We read them, we talk about them. Yeah. We are your hosts. We are your hosts, Plain Simple Tailors.
Indeed.
Also known
Locutors
as
of Trek.
Locutors of Trek, also known as Davan S9 and Dave.
Oh, man.
Going by Davan S9 for
Davan
We'll see how
S9.
long
That's
that lasts.
very nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
the
That's
S
pretty good.
works. My last name starts with
Yeah,
an S.
that's
Like
true.
it was made for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's true.
We're here. This is Trickle Trunk episode 5, and I hope everyone enjoyed Dave's intro about tape. Yes, we were alive when you were talking about tape.
I looked up and I saw the timer going. I thought they all heard me talking about tape being highly compromised.
Today we're going to talk about IDW's Star Trek number 2, Lower Decks number 3, and Star Trek Trill. Though not in that order.
Indeed.
We're going to start with Lower Decks, I think.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So this is the third, and as I learned just moments ago, third and final issue of Star Trek Lower Decks, the comic series. This is like I'm a little bit scattered right now because I'm kind of shocked. I thought they would be running this for a while because these are great stories. They're really great Lower Deck stories.
Yeah, it seems so perfect. Like it seems so like it's flawless to compare it to the cartoon. Like you'd never know this wasn't just a transcription from one of the episodes,
The art style translates so beautifully.
Perfect. So does the writing, except for you get the cool Ryan North style subtitles at the bottom of the pages. Which
those are great fun.
It fits the Lower Deck style perfectly as well. It's also tongue in cheek,
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I'm going to start a letter writing campaign. You can all join me. Let's write Ryan North and Chris Finoglio until they make more of these comics because they're amazing. So, spoiler alert, we probably liked this issue because the first two were great.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good issue. So just a quick recap. They've gone to a highly advanced planet, discovered by accident that there are the Kvantis and somebody else's, the Yonteas or something. We'll get their name right.
Oh, the Yentoa. Yeah.
Yentoa, that's right.
Yeah.
And are in a bit of an imbroglio diplomatically there now. But up on
TNG style problem.
Very TNG style problem. Yeah. And harkens back to one of those classic conditions for membership in the Federation, right? Which is a united planetary government. So really classic kind of a Star Trek tale that way. Meanwhile, up on the Cerritos, the Lower Decks crew have been messing around on the holodeck and managed to confect a Dracula. Like Bram
Moriarty style.
Very much. Begins as a series of jokes about that.
A power surge, you're asking for it.
Yeah, because this planet, of course, has a weird atmosphere.
They're all like warning Boimler, like it's going to be a problem. He's just like, no, don't worry. After the Moriarty thing, they set up all these extra protocols, and he's just like, and he's testing all these protocols, and they're all working. And then the power surge.
Yeah. Of course.
So we have a real life Dracula, or at least he's a hologram, but he's sent
real life holo Dracula
as a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So Ransom has issued them this challenge that they've got to figure out what to do with their Dracula because he's a sentient. So that's where we left off. It looked like all was lost. So
yes, and they had found out that about the whole Yentoa Gvanti dynamic. Like they had found out that. Well, or am I jumping ahead?
Well, they've found out that
they
one part of the planet lives in a kind of a non-technological, uh, sort of
So like
agrarian
18th
lifestyle.
century-ish or 18th,
Yeah,
19th
and
or
the other half lives a very, very high-tech life. And that the one side is sort of safeguarding this non-technological lifestyle of the other. So that's what they've discovered. And we open with, as we should, Captain's Log, supplemental. I've convinced the Kvanti to stop firing on the Cerritos in exchange for willingly acceding to a binding Kvanti tribunal. So we open on a lovely informing page, but also on a page with the captain's dedication to diplomacy already firmly in place as like a basic premise of this story. That's where the captain's
yeah, she's insistent. People
plan
keep giving
is.
her advice to the contrary, and she's just like, "No, we definitely have to figure out a way to work this out diplomatically."
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah,
She's sure this second contact situation can be salvaged in a way that's going to work for for all involved to benefit, right?
Captain Freeman is very Starfleet.
Yeah, it's true.
He's kind of a
So
by the
up
books
here,
kind of captain.
back in orbit, we get a lovely view of the Kvanti spaceships.
Yeah, very
They're
cool.
they're kind of a nondescript design to some degree, but they're hulking, as you can see,
They
and
almost look
clearly
like
with
little
enough firepower.
foxes or something. If you imagine those side wings as like whiskers, they're like little foxes.
Sure, I see what you're
Oh.
saying. Yeah. So back on board, they're trying to repair the ship, get everything back and going. Ransom's taking command and potentially doing knee thrusts. I'm not sure, although Tanowski thinks he's in trouble.
Oh, he's doing
Uh,
lunges.
I think he may be doing lunges. Uh,
Ransom's classic.
yeah,
His
he's
dedication to fitness is quite commendable.
he's he's literally like a CrossFit guy on a starship, you know.
Yeah. Hey,
Imagine
you
him
working
hanging
out?
off bulkheads. The core strengthening ball in his office is, I think, my favorite feature we've seen for him so far. It's just
Picard has a fish tank. He has a core strengthening ball.
exactly right. He's probably got those gripper hand thingies that you use in his desk.
Oh, he definitely has those. I can't believe we haven't seen him with those yet. Or maybe we have. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe we have. I don't know. So now we turn over to the holodeck where Dracula is trying to get the computer to be more helpful. It's programmed not to give him control of the ship. So it's firm on
And
that.
not to really take his commands really much at all because he's a hologram, is what it
Yeah.
seems like.
So, what if I ask you to tell me a mere tiny weakness? Access denied. Medium sized? Access denied. Have you any other responses beyond access denied? Access denied. It's good dialogue, good computer
It is.
hologram dialogue. So eventually, Dracula summons up a table because he wants to flip a table because he's so mad, and this
That's pretty funny.
finally gives him an idea.
Right.
He says, "No matter what I ask, I find myself denied, and without the knowledge of such machines as you two." Wait. So he goes on a spree of getting the computer to tell him all about itself. He just gets it to educate him.
Basically becomes data.
Exactly, right? Now, in the lower decks, they're trying to figure out any way to help out the ship on their off time, which is still going on because they're in the holodeck, clearly. But what they find is that I'm just waving this around now. I'm trying to see around it. What they find eventually is that the shields on these other ships, much of their weaponry and everything is works on different principles than they really understand. But what they do find from taking measurements is that the shields scale up with the intensity of whatever's going to hit them. They're not really sure what to make of this yet, but that's what they found. And then as they begin to try and calculate scenarios, the computer time starts jumping up and up from 30 seconds to 1,835 seconds as it goes along. So they figure out fairly quickly what can be using up all of this processing power except
holodeck
Dracula. That's right. So they come and get Dracula, and we find in this lovely image Dracula in a very Barclayan machine over here.
Yeah.
We've seen this on TNG before, and Dracula is putting it to very good use. He's
overmind Barclay.
Yes, I am hacking at speeds faster than light itself. And now here, Ryan North makes a very interesting note here. He writes, "You'd think there'd be downsides to the Federation routinely using a non-propulsive warp field around the computer cores to speed up processing, but
I found that
nope.
super interesting.
Yeah,
have we ever heard that before?
I don't think so. Maybe he's
so much sense, right?
But you know what? I'll bet you he's
bound
read
by like linear time so much,
right? He's probably read the technical manual for the Enterprise much more closely than I have, I suspect, in recent years.
Probably, maybe, or maybe he's got some inside details.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But if he just made that up, that's genius.
Indeed. So Dracula has them trapped in his realm now. The exit's locked, transporters scrambled, safeties are off, and he's in control. It all looks like it's going terribly wrong until Boimler, still wearing his cape,
he's all about
he's totally about that cape. Makes a wonderful suggestion. Dude, is that all you want? You can chug some Boimler's original B negative whenever you want. And I'm sure we can throw it together a mobile emitter in no time. Problem solved. Thank me later.
Then they like point out, so it's like, dude, we can't just throw together a piece of 29th century technology. We can't just like make him a mobile emitter. There's only one.
Indeed.
And I think they say like Starfleet has it under lock and key. Like, does the Doctor even have it anymore? Like,
I don't know. Let's see here.
something about that, I think.
Right. Plus, there's only one mobile emitter, and it's from the future, and Starfleet barely knows how it works.
Oh, okay. Yeah, barely knows how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. So he does say what he really wants to do is drink real blood. That's his big plan.
For it. Even he drank Rutherford's blood.
That's right. Samanthan's delicious, delicious blood. Although one of the things I like best about this issue, honestly, is Dracula's tasting notes for blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He tries them all out, and he's just like, he loves tendies.
I know.
This
copper finish. It's so good.
God, that would be terrible. It'd be like drinking pennies.
I know, it'd be really nasty.
Copper finish.
So they can't.
Sam asked when did Star Trek start coming out? They started coming out. There was some in the
last
80s,
year.
Sure.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, in general, there's tons. There's a tons of backlog. You can go back and
There's a lot of original series comics for sure.
Yeah, I think we've reviewed some older stuff on Locutors.
Yeah, a couple of times, like the Gorn Crisis and a couple of those things.
Yeah, the Gorn. Yeah, the Gorn.
Which crisis. Are more recent, but still older comics. Yeah,
90s stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, over the course of these few pages, our heroes figure out that what Dracula really wants is 10 cubic centimeters,
not
Lady
even
Tendi,
much.
of blood.
Yeah.
Minimum
So,
per day.
per day. Yeah.
10 cubic
Doesn't seem like a lot.
centimeters. No, that's like it's
Like
not
you
a
could
lot.
regenerate that every day. You could have one person give them that, and they could probably make that back in a day.
Indeed. In fact, this is what Tendi immediately says. Guys, we can manage that ourselves. And if it keeps him happy and bloodlusted, even on my worst day, I got 5 liters of that stuff sloshing around, says Samantha. Right? So the only person who's truly against this is Mariner, because she says, no, we can't trust literal Dracula.
Yeah, we can't trust. But then they're just like, no, it's just like without the bloodlust, he's like just kind of a nice gentleman.
This is what he says. I am a gentleman, not a brute. If you can give me what I want, then I can help you. Then I want to help you. So they're quite. She's still thinking it's a trick, but
rightfully, but it's Dracula.
Boimler makes the point again. We can trust him if we choose to, which is an interesting point. She says it's a trick. We can. We can if we just choose to, Mariner. The beautiful thing here is the speech he makes. I'm no longer the person I was when we met, and that's partly because of you, isn't it? You didn't take me for who I was, but saw who I could be and helped me get there. And you forgave my mistakes. That's what Starfleet is, too. You know, it's a beautiful speech, and he actually makes a really wonderful point in the midst of this admittedly pretty bizarre scene.
All Mariner hears is, so you're saying I affected you deeply. You're like something like
that's right. That's right. She's like, so where is it? Where does she say that? That's right. Yeah, so I mean, pretty much this is all I'm responsible for all of this, of course, right?
Everything you do
In a non-egotistical way, right? So they're gonna homebrew him up an emitter out of some coils and a computer and things like that. They pull out
Which is
of
a funny
the
workaround that you'd like think that almost makes mobile emitters almost not so useful, like, or at least not necessary. They're like, why can't we just strap a holographic emitter to something?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's basically a mobile emitter. It's just a bit bigger. But like,
oh yeah, it's just huge. It's like almost the size of an exocomp. But yeah, right. Like they can build a kind of a thing, but it's huge and clunky. Exactly. Yeah, it's a lovely piece of engineering from Samantha Rutherford.
he's good. He's good.
Indeed. Now, briefly, down on the surface, diplomacy has been going well enough that Delaney, the sort of arch leader of the place, says, no, the tribunal is not without mercy. You may briefly talk to your crew to say goodbye. They're still intent on destroying them. Freeman says clearly, do not return fire. This is their law. This is their world. We are going to do this diplomatically.
Well, then
Ransom
they have
again?
Shax
Not
in
sure.
a Hannibal Lecter mask.
That's true. I mean, the number of people he kicked the tar out of in the last issue probably,
True.
gives them reasonably good reason for that. But yes, again, the Hannibal Lecter mask is awesome.
And it's very likely he tried to bite someone once he was restrained.
Oh, I'm sure. If that's his only weapon left, Shax is going for it. So the ships, the Fonte ships begin to attack the Cerritos.
You know, Dave, I just got to say something since we're talking about Shax.
Yeah.
You honor the prophets with that pitch, Bradward.
You're honoring the prophets with your pitch.
Bradward Boimler. He's a prophet's honorer. So here he comes out of the holodeck, our Dracula. He thanks them. Boimler and Mariner, your bloods are as delicious as Rutherford's, with distinct iron notes that linger on the palate. Thanks, I grew them myself, says Boimler. The note here is quite wonderful. I don't know if grow is the right word for blood, but excrete, while more accurate to what our bone marrow actually does, sounds way grosser. I just didn't want you to own a comic in which someone says, thanks, I excreted them myself. Thank me later. Now that you own a comic in which this precisely is on the bottom of the page.
Yes. At least it's a subtext.
Yes, that's right. So they're on an off shift right now. They have no battle stations to go to. And so they begin to try and work out what the plan is.
Yeah.
Eventually, our plot point from earlier in the... That's right. The shields scale up according to the intensity of this. So they say, what about a really low intensity thing?
Oh, right. The opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just... and so
like
Boimler
says,
well, what are we going
to... Like throwing like a baseball through it. Like
Exactly. What are we going to damage them with? A rock? Not that rock, my friends. A bat.
Yeah.
Says Dracula. So
turn
their
into
plan...
a bat at the last second.
That's right. So they run out to try and throw him at it, and you get this beautiful spread panel page here. Pretty gorgeous.
Tendy's got a good arm. That is gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty lovely. I like how tiny they are on the ship. It's all pretty
Love
great.
when we get a shot that's almost like it's from the perspective of you standing on the hull of a ship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure. And so they're coming out on the bottom by the deflector dish here, it looks like. They come on out. Tendy, it turns out, does have a good arm. And they fling their Dracula at the ship. Now here, this becomes lovely. Dracula, first of all, instructs the computer to turn off any pain sensors he might have. But then decides, what about fire fingers to cut my way in? And just decides to give himself random abilities.
Yeah.
Because he's still in touch with the computer via subspace.
And then he explains on how like it's okay. Dracula would totally know about like heat cutting technology, like a welding technology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the note. Exactly. The blowtorch was invented in the 1700s.
Yeah, the blowtorch.
Precisely. Which, of course, Bram Stoker's Dracula was written in the 1880s, 1890s, so all makes sense.
Which is earlier for the blood, or not blood, the blowtorch.
Earlier for the blowtorch than I would have thought, yeah. I imagine it must have something with a bellows or something attached to it at the point, eh? Maybe.
Maybe they
so
had
the
a way to
indeed
feed some sort of a gas into a tube or something. I don't know.
So in the middle of this, there's this one little panel here where Dracula goes up to one of the computer panels and does, as he calls it later, computer stuff. And this is helpful. He says, for see, I have discovered your secret. Now here is the twist and reveal. Yep. Spoiler right over here. This is the big spoiler moment. Because here we've got the layout of what's actually happened. The Yentoa, in fact, were the highly developed species. In fact, this is like a tiny replaying of the birth of the mirror universe in a weird way.
Crazy twist, but I love it. Like, I'm surprised this hasn't come up in Star Trek before.
So the Yentoa were the advanced ones. They met the Kvanti, who immediately subjugated them by violence, and then dominated their species and reduced them to their
place, like essentially.
Current, exactly. And any of them that showed signs of scientific brilliance, they simply kidnapped and transported away. And so have been holding their other half of the planet in a sort of artificially induced technological tutelage,
they sort of did an episode like that on Enterprise, but without the switcheroo. There was the people, but sort of a switcheroo. There was aliens kidnapped humans and subjugated them as labor, and then eventually the humans rose up and took their place, and then just started.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yes. So the Kvanti still think they have the upper hand because they say, well, nobody's going to learn this. You'll all be dead. However, Dracula is, of course, a clever hologram, and he's been sending everything back to Ransom, who's been simulcasting it to Starfleet headquarters. Now, there's no point killing them. The offer is rescinded. They won't be able to join Starfleet for generations at this point because of the damage they still need to undo on their world, essentially decolonizing and debrutalizing half their planet. And short time later, we see them wandering down. Boimler's still sporting his cape. Loves that cape, even on a dress uniform.
Well, why can't there be Starfleet issue capes?
I would love one. I like that we see the Starfleet issued skirt show up here. You know, the skirt uniform that shows up here and earlier in the episode. On a lovely bearded ginger man. But here we learn that Dracula is not planning to stay with the Cerritos. Sadly, I would love to see Dracula on an episode.
He's a super likable character. I hope
Even
he
just
shows
a
up on the
message
show.
from him would be amazing.
And as Ryan
says,
North
"Thank you,
points
Captain."
out, he's public domain, so why wouldn't you use Dracula? You should.
Exactly. Dracula, Winnie the Pooh, let's go for it.
Oh no, wait! Disney definitely owns Winnie the Pooh, don't they? Oh,
Not the
wow.
original images. They own their
Oh,
versions of the images and the characters they added, but the original stuff is all out of copyright now. And the stuff people have done with it in the weeks since has been, you know what the internet.
Oh, is that
does
why
with
they
things.
could write the Tao of Pooh and put all that artwork in that one?
Oh, that was all licensed
Tao of
stuff.
Pooh.
That was all licensed. Those are fun books, eh? The Tao of Pooh and the Day of
Yeah.
Piglet.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Dracula. He's leaving Starfleet's emergency, the Cerritos, to join Starfleet's Emergency Holographic Academy. It's filled with sentient characters from fiction, all gathered to learn from Voyager's EMH. Some of them are even dating each other. I saw Sherlock Holmes kiss a Cthulhu on my call, Captain.
He's like, I want that for me.
I want that for me.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's funny that the EMH is now just teaching other holograms, though.
That's pretty great. I can only assume there's a course in opera. So yeah, and they head away. He compliments Tandy's blood. You know, it's your green plasma's savory copper forward encounters with the palette are an endlessly nuanced delight. Yeah. And finally, the captain makes him take his cape off.
Yeah.
And there was much rejoicing.
Why are you still wearing that cape?
Oh.
Well,
yeah.
So,
good issue.
Good issue. Good story. I wish there was more.
Yeah, I would like to see more of it happen. I would very much like to see more of it happen, for sure.
It's got me really wanting Lower Decks to come back.
Yeah,
can't wait for that next season.
Yeah,
that's not
I enjoy.
Because that just ended.
Not that long ago. No, it'll be a while yet. Nope, I like Ryan North's writing. Mm-hmm. The art, of course, is fabulous. It's a great art style. It works well. Yeah.
Headcanon or no, as we ask on this show.
Oh, I think it's fine for me. I think it fits the series perfectly.
Me too. I hope Dracula shows up on the show.
Oh man, who would you have voice Dracula?
Well, I'm doing these 3 comics as a Star Trek radio theater, and Dave Mader, cousin Dave, basically cast himself. He campaigned for the role of Dracula. So
Oh, I
he'll be
see.
Dracula. So I guess I would cast cousin Dave.
I'll be interested to hear his Transylvanian accent. It'll be great.
We'll have a role for you.
Woo!
You'd have been my second choice for Dracula.
Oh,
one of the Daves, I thought.
Your alternate plan.
Well, I gotta say, your Transylvanian accent comes off with a little bit more Russian. A little Russian in there.
It's true. I'm not so Romanian as I used to be. All right.
You channel your Romanian.
That's right. My inner Romanian. Next issue up.
Star Trek 2.
Star Trek number 2.
Written by Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly, and art by Oleg Chudakov, who didn't do the art on the last issue. The artist actually changed here.
Oh, yeah. For sure it did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Quite
good. I like this Oleg Chudakov. So I don't know his work, but I really like his work.
No, it's a good style. It's a real good style. So we begin aboard
the cover
Theseus.
First. The cover.
Cover's beautiful. Lovely
look at
color.
that. Those are my boys right there. Like that's it. Right
the boys are back in town right here. That's nice.
Those are my Trek characters. Hey, Garrick, of course. Garrick's our spirit animal.
Well, sure. But... So good first page. We get Sisko. I think that is Crusher right there, and Data all in one page. Very nice. Yep. He's concerned. Sisko's concerned. His memories of what the founders shared with him are fading by the moment. He's glad to have them with him, but he's come back to somewhere else.
Well, hold on 1 second. Let's do a quick recap. On the first issue, Sisko's back. He's been sent on the Prophet because somebody's destroying godlike figures like crystalline entity. Yes. They destroyed all the crystalline entity. They lured them all into one place and destroyed them all. That's super sad. I freaking cried when they killed the one crystalline entity, and now they go and kill them all. If that was on the screen with sound and vibrations, oh my god, I'd still be crying.
It'd be brutal. Be brutal.
So you know what? I like that they added this time crunch of the fact that everything they've shared with him is fading, because otherwise I would be too mad that he didn't wait to see Cassidy and Sarah, his new daughter, that he has never met. As someone with a young daughter myself, you wait to see your daughter, or you go to.
You feel the pressure in a whole different way, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So that the fact that that's there, that makes sense. He's like, they're still on their way. I'll go finish my thing and then go meet my family. Because I added the first issue to the headcanon tentatively. And you did not, and neither did Cousin Dave. But I still think this story can win you guys over. We'll see.
So some of my favorite lines from the first page here. Deep Space Nine was a family, but these people, they're skeptical at best. They're a means to an end. At worst, they're a panopticon. Which is a fascinating way to describe this potential crew. Oh, absolutely.
He's like, Sisko, you're a dude who's super driven by crazy
visions, ecstatic, experience,
and emotions, and all these things.
Yeah.
You need a Data.
Yeah, a Data could be real handy. So where they go is to look for an old friend.
Indeed. I love all this stuff, man. I gotta say, I like this issue a lot.
I like what's happening with the Klingons here.
You answered a lot of questions I've been wondering that have been left lingering in Star Trek. Because I was super curious. We'll get into it here in a second. I'm jumping a little bit, but I was super curious at the end of DS9 what the Martok Emperor Kahless relationship would be like. Because if Bohr looked down upon Martok, you better believe Kahless does.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah. So they're standing in front of something called the Imperial Spire. It's been built a little ways away from the
Bridge
capital
of 3,
city. Exactly.
Oh, I'm glad we got to see that again, man.
I like that. Yeah. I like they're
Go
in
back and
that
read that
valley again.
Klingon issue,
So we're
or
right.
check out a
We're
review of the Klingon issue. It was.
You see where we are here. We're right
Yeah.
on this overlooking that town where he fought 3 war bands away.
They just moved the capital there.
Basically, yeah, they've sort of moved Kalis's seat there so that he's far away from the council, or relatively far from the council.
He's likely made enemies of the counts.
Indeed. And so we find a wonderful picture of
There he is.
Kalis here. Kalis the Unforgettable.
Yeah.
And we get a good picture
It's super
or a quick
quotable.
sketch of the governmental structure. So we run at the top Emperor Kalis II, who is in some ways a figurehead, although he's growing into the sense of his own legend. This is kind of the sense of what's happening here. Then
People
directly
are
beneath that,
doing that as well, and sort of forgetting that he's a
yes,
like they're sort of embracing him over time.
yeah, and you can hear it in the way that Worf speaks about him, right? In a way, he's like, he talks about these things, and he says, "Yes, you can ask him."
Because
It
Worf
is said by
created that
him.
monster, if indeed he's become a monster, because
Yeah,
Kalis didn't believe the people would ever follow him. He's like, I'm just a
nope.
clone. Like, they shouldn't and won't follow me. Worf's just like, oh no, but they will.
No, like this is Worf's political vision coming to
Yeah,
a
it is.
weird fruition years later.
Yeah, he's got Kalis and Martok, the 2 guys he appointed. Like,
He's the real leader of
very
the Klingon
influential Klingon.
Empire in a
Yeah,
weird
he
way,
is.
right? Or that's true. He's kind of the Emperor and Chancellor maker. So yeah,
Yeah.
Emperor, Chancellor, High Council, then Federation Ambassador. Beautifully, they do a lovely diplomatic caution
Just
note
Worf.
here.
He's
That's
the
right.
Federation
Worf's the
ambassador.
Federation ambassador. Despite their advanced spacefaring technology, the Klingons are still known to settle command and diplomatic disputes with archaic duels and other blood rights. This year alone, 11 Klingon starship commanders have been killed and supplanted by their subordinates. This is, historically speaking, a low number.
I know. Let your bat do the talking.
That's right. So here we learn that the Andorian on Sisko's crew knows how to speak Klingon.
Yeah.
Probably did better in remedial Klingon spelling than my relative
But
Puxley.
do you see her last name is Sato?
Yeah.
Now, is she a descendant of Hoshi Sato, hence her being such a great linguist?
Well, this is what I wonder, eh?
You know,
I think it'd be fascinating.
I think that's what's going on there. Another thing
Because
I
she's
like about this issue.
well, the other thing is, over the generations, how many of these species could mix together to produce a very unique individual? Since we know
Tons,
with the progenitors and the other 4 running species that these are all related species at some level.
Right, which I like that how it explains how these species can, and some of them can't, or there's like a lot of difficulty. But
Well, you're not going to mate with a Tholian very easily.
It's like Daniels on Enterprise, who comes from the future. Like, he's a bunch of stuff. They check his genetics, and he's got like Klingon and Vulcan and human and all kinds of stuff. So that would be probably like most people.
A lot of people, yeah.
29th century where Daniels comes from.
Yeah, I suspect so, eh? Let alone whatever it is, the 32nd century where the Discovery ends up,
Unless you happen to be living on like one of the home planets. Like, if you and your father and your mother and their parents all grew up on Earth,
sure.
like maybe you're still mostly human.
Probably mostly, yeah. So what they seek is a course and permission to go to a legendary world called Sarkadesh to see the Shapers of Sarkadesh.
Shapers. Now these Shapers were an interesting concept, and it kind of see this. Here's I like this issue a lot, Dave, because I always wondered, like, they've talked about how the Klingons have somewhat of a science class, but they're not supported, like, financially or, like, culturally or anything at all.
Not in huge ways, no.
So did the Klingons just steal all their technology? Because they're still one of the most technologically advanced races out there. So it's like the fact that these like shapers exist, like kind of answers some of that for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we also. I remember in an episode of Enterprise again. I remember seeing. There's a conversation. It's either between B'Elanna and somebody else, or not B'Elanna. Cripes. I forget who. Yeah, it might be. But they're having a conversation, and he says, our culture wasn't always like this. We used to have poets and farmers and all sorts of things.
That was Antak.
There you go. Yeah. And he makes a beautiful point that their culture changed relatively recently due to expansionary pressures, right?
And the warrior class just becoming like the cool thing. All the young people.
Yeah.
Warriors.
So it really may only be over the last few hundred years that their technological progress has slowly begun to stall out, right? Other than in fits and spurts when they really need to develop something. So, Sargadesh is a world that's reputed to be able to build anything for anyone. How they could conquer the Empire, but they wouldn't in exchange for peace in their space, never to be touched again.
See, that's perfect. That's what the founders should have done.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? Yeah,
like,
but they chose a very different path.
Just leave us alone. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sisko claims they've broken this treaty with the Klingons, that they've given a weapon to somebody else that has been able to discover or to destroy the crystalline entities.
Oh, Kahless. He's Kahless, all right.
Oh, yeah. Kahless says no.
No.
With a grin on his face. Now go.
No go.
So, what they decide to do is pick a giant fight with the Klingon Empire and drive to the planet of Sarkadesh. Tom Paris is not sanguine about this thought. Worf comes along with him because he feels exactly. Worf sticks around on the bridge of the Theseus as Data and Sisko, Crusher, and our Andorian friend Miss Sato come down here, and we get this lovely.
Which was interesting because he was going to take Worf first, because all captains are used to Worf being their security guy,
Indeed,
protect me on the planet. But was it Data who says, "Actually, I have to go with you, and if Klingons show up, Worf should be here to talk to them anyway."
Yeah, good old Data making a good point. So this lovely spread page here, absolutely gorgeous. I love the stuff in the background. It's very classic animated series style backgrounds there. Yeah, these are interesting creatures, right? They're planning and they're angry that people have set foot upon holy Sarkadesh. Up on board, Worf is saying today is a good day to die, which again, Tom Paris does not like at all.
Yeah. So not Tom Paris. And he's married to a Klingon, but not a very Klingon.
Well, yeah.
Not as ready to die as a Worf.
No, B'Elanna Torres would also be saying, "Let's get out of here, dummy." So
I love that though. Every time he says that, that's like in the First Contact movie. Perhaps today is a good day to die, and they just like pan to the con officer, and he's just like,
it's like, oh my god, what's going on?
Like, how is this guy a captain in Starfleet? Like, what's going on? Yeah.
So yeah.
Speed.
Down on the planet, they managed to convince the Shapers that they're not the same creatures who came before, and that they need to do something different. But they know that Sisko is the emissary. They don't like to have an agent of those
they know the
creatures on
prophets.
their world,
Yeah.
right? They know the prophets, and they do not care for them, as far as I can tell.
I find
They
that
certainly don't
interesting.
want
They're
to.
likely a very old race, like the Q and the founders and stuff
That's
like
what
that.
I'm thinking, right?
There was probably this initial community of species that have kind of faded to the background for whatever reasons, or become more prominent, like the founders. But like, it's interesting see, there's a lot in this issue. There's a lot
Yeah,
in
there's
this.
a lot of world building going on that way for sure.
Mhm.
So here we see. I was holding up the page. We see a battle going on with the Theseus and 3 or 4 or 5, or actually, I think it's 5
Right,
Klingon Vorcha class cruisers on this page.
and Worf can't fire at them.
Yes, he says, whatever you do, do not fire. Marshal Uktok is a well-known braggart and a politician from a wealthy house.
I like this.
He is a
I like
coward,
Worf's way out of this. Yeah,
and cowards fear what they cannot understand.
yeah.
So he says, Ensign
And they're
Tellar,
and
our
they're and
Vulcan.
they're timid in small groups, like
Yeah,
Jellicoe says about the Cardassians. It's like they're
yeah,
brave in
precisely,
big, and
right?
they're timid in small groups. Yeah.
Uh, so right, he says, do we not have aboard here a what is it? A systems scanner.
They need something weird that like the sensors on
Oh,
the
here it
ship
is. Yeah, an
won't really
environmental
translate.
compensation system capable of withstanding the gravitational forces of a neutron star. Worf says, overload it.
Yeah.
So the Klingons have no
This is
idea
such
what
a
this
good.
is.
This is such a good Worf issue.
Yeah, Tellar is like not sure why they're going to do this. Scotty makes
He gets it.
a point. He
He's like,
says,
"Oh, I've dealt with
"It's a
Klingons, Eddie."
bluff, you wee Vulcan, a James Kirk special."
Yeah.
As they redirect their fire down on the planet, these dudes are about to unmake them when Picard's bet comes good.
Yeah. Data figures out
And
the way out of here.
indeed, says, you believe you are destroying lesser life forms, but my captain and his crew are your peers. Observe me, Shaper. See me for what I am. I am a synthetic intelligence, android classified life form within the top 2% of intelligent beings in the universe, at least within the current probability curve.
I like that statistic too. That was
Yeah,
interesting.
top 2%
Which,
in the universe.
yeah, that's crazy high. That's like the
Yeah, and
binars. It's probably like him in the
right.
binars.
And I was made by a mortal, by a human specifically, he says. I understand how one can undervalue them. They are short lived and limited. Their information processing can be disappointing at the best of times.
Oh shit!
I feel that every day.
Oh man,
My
yeah,
information processing is
I hear
disappointing at the
you.
best of times.
I hear
Uh, yeah. He
you.
says this should be offensive to all you hold dear that these things are going around destroying stuff in the galaxy. What
Yeah,
we seek is its unmaking. And here, a beautiful thing he says, here on holy Sarkadesh, where all things are made.
now he's a bit full of shit. Really, what's more accurate is Noonien Sung is maybe one of their peers, but yeah, but like not all of humanity. Unless you're going with the whole, collective
Well, in
betterment
that
of
sense, I think,
humanity thing that they push
we,
for in Starfleet and that sort of thing. But
yeah, but we could take what Boimler says about Mariner seeing something in him that he wasn't at yet and apply that to much of humanity, I think, in certainly in
yeah,
Starfleet's estimation.
yeah.
So they're heading away. The planets have, or the Shapers have decided not to kill them. Uh, Worf decides to come back to Starfleet. And he's joining for the
Yeah.
mission, I think. Good old Worf. He's done with his time as ambassador.
Spoiler
He's
alert, though, that I'll talk about in a minute. That you'll be interested to hear, Dave.
okay. So we see down here that there's one last thing that's been delivered. We're going to need to see where that leads.
Okay, so here's the thing.
All right.
There's a new Star Trek comic coming out soon.
Oh yeah.
And let's just say this nice little alliance and old friends coming back together between Sisko and Worf is not going to be long lived. They're gonna get super pissed at each other, probably in the next issue, I would guess. And Worf is splitting off to lead his own comic series, in which he commands the Defiant Dave, and has his own team that includes Lore and B'Elanna Torres, which is also crazy because Tom is on Sisko's team. And now all of a sudden Worf's going to split off from Sisko and take B'Elanna with him. And I would love to see Worf and B'Elanna together. So I'm looking forward to that comic as well. It may be called Star Trek Defiant, but that's coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be covering that on the Trekle Trunk as well because it spins out from the
that'll be
story.
interesting.
They're gonna have like a
wider set of things.
Yeah.
Cool.
So interesting.
Indeed.
Spoiler alert there. But so Dave.
So now
I'm gonna come out and say it. This issue kind of cemented my head canon from the first issue. I was a little iffy on the first issue, but I could sense a bit of potential because it jumped right into it a little fast. The first issue, all of a sudden, you're just like, boom, all this crazy stuff's happening, and it's just like, okay, but there was so much world building in this issue, and it answered a lot of things for me that I wanted to know, and I like the way it handled a lot of it. I like that Kahless is kind of becoming this, a bit of a tyrant. Like
interesting,
the Kahless that we saw in that Klingon issue that we love so much would probably become that. He wouldn't want to take answers from the council or anything like that. He's just like, because he believes he's the true Klingon and that people need to be truly Klingon, and the council is not truly Klingon. That council is more Ferengi and Romulan than anything.
Oh my goodness,
the Klingon council's as sketchy as anything.
Oh man, no, it is pretty darn mired in dirty politics, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's like Jadzia says to Worf. It's like, well, who's the last member of the council you've actually respected? And he's just like,
I refuse to answer that question.
Exactly. That's culturally insensitive. How dare you? But no, I like where this is going. It even cleaned up a little bit of the Sisko stuff for me that it was troubling me from the last issue. I'm digging it. I'm going headcanon.
Right on. I'm not entirely on headcanon yet. I like the story a lot. And certainly for like a 3-issue or run or whatever it may turn out to be.
Oh, it's going to be longer than that.
You think it's going to be longer?
Title. This is the flagship title right now. Yeah.
Or whatever this story is running, I guess is really my point. I'm interested to see where it goes because I like the story so far.
This could be a 6-issue story to fit perfectly in a trade. Like things
often
go in 6 issues.
Yeah, that would be just
5
great.
or 6 issues. But,
sure.
And then we see what happens with Sisko from there. I want to see him meet his family. I want to see him meet Sarah Sisko.
Yeah, no kidding.
Don't rob me of that.
Yeah, no. That better be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. But I have faith. I have faith that you'll get there.
Sure.
If the story keeps going the way it's going, because the first issue of most comic series, even like something I truly love, like X-Men or Spider-Man or something like that, the first issues of a new run are usually not very good.
They're trying to set up a lot of stuff, eh?
The first issues are notoriously not good in comics.
Interesting.
So I'm always ready for that. And for a first issue, the last one wasn't so bad.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Well, and that's a difference.
The second one
for me
really delivers. The second one really delivers.
Well, certainly a much tighter issue than the first one. I really like the art style as well. Particularly the Klingon stuff. Honestly, I would have loved to see the artist from the issue about Klingons, of just Star Trek. Would have been great, but The one with Kalis. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
actually.
I can't remember who does the art on that.
Watch it be the same guy, and I just didn't really notice.
Yes,
All right, on to our third issue here.
I'm looking it up.
All right.
Why not?
So our third is
you just continue.
Star Trek Trill, another one shot. Written by Jody Hauser with art by Hendry Prosetia, Rafael Perez Granados.
Yeah,
Jody. Lovely issue, beautiful art, and one of the coolest things in it right here, right off the top, you see a ship that is really not Starfleet. It's very cool.
Very strange ship.
Yeah, really odd. So we're on Hesperides 1. Stardate 47802.1.
Not the same artist. I just checked it out. There's Timothy Green.
Okay, right on.
That did the Klingon.
So Hesperides 1 apparently is a planet Starfleet came to decades ago. The artifacts there affected the crew's minds. So right from the first line, we know we're doing some kind of a expedition or an excavation or an investigation. Our main character's name, this lady right here, is Vana. Her friend is Bessa. And this
One thing that
planet.
surprised me about this issue is it didn't. I mean, I guess it could be viewed as a good thing, but I don't mind a little fan service myself, like that last issue had with the Klingon stuff. But it didn't tie into any of the Trill stuff we know.
No, not at all.
Any of the characters. There's no reference of a Dax or what? I can't remember her name now, but like Curzon's old wife. That line or anything.
Yeah. No, we don't see any of that. This is a different tale, and what we find as we begin, they're looking around the ruins, seeing signs of a sun god, maybe a fertility god, various things.
Luckily, it doesn't slip into masks from TNG.
How do you mean?
I hate that episode. The one where Data puts on all the
Yeah,
masks.
yeah.
The sun god. I hate.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right, of course.
It doesn't descend into that lunacy.
Yeah. So it looks like Vana is involved in some sort of comparative paleo archaeology of some kind of religions or worship systems.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Because she's interested in commonalities in worship across various species.
Yeah, I like the line she says to her companion there, where she's just like, "You may find this boring because it's the same stuff we find everywhere."
Oh, yeah.
That's what's interesting to me. The fact that these commonalities exist everywhere.
Yeah, she's right. In short, the more sun gods, the better.
Yeah, the more sun gods, the better.
And it's an interesting thing, right? Because in that respect, it's that kind of veneration as a basic intuition of the critical role that the star plays in the life of the planet and its ecosystems. That's a pretty deep intuition for a planetary based creature to have about that light, and it's pretty fundamental. We had it a long time ago, I think, as humans, long before we were writing anything down, even. I think it's what first gets us looking up at the heavens and following stuff around and helps us get on boats and things,
It's like a very primitive human. It would have to be mind-boggling to think that there's this thing that's there, but you can't even look at it.
Well, this is, in
like,
fact,
that's insane. It's kind of hard for a less developed mind to kind of comprehend.
Well, and even for highly developed minds, it becomes a beautiful thing, right? Like Plato famously in the Phaedo uses an analogy for his doctrine of ideas, which for anybody listening to this podcast, I've done a lot of study in classics, and for all of you, Plato is not a dualist. That's Descartes. Just forget all the rest of the bullshit that anybody tells you. Anyway, his doctrine of ideas, he talks about looking, the way you've got to, he says, look at, say, the sun in a pond to try and see what's going on. Or, you can't look at an eclipse of the sun directly. You've got to look at it indirectly. He says, that's how my ideas work relative to the good. He says, right? You can't think that unitary first principle directly. It's prior to being and knowing. And you have to think its first determinations, almost beyond that, right? And those would be just barely thinkable. So yeah, I think you're right. Like from the times when we had really barely developed linguistic skills or articulated conceptual abilities on up, this has been a fascinating thing for us.
And like
So she's got a
cross-spanning,
real interesting mind. This character.
You'd likely find fertility gods. They even comment on one. They're like, "Is that a
Yeah.
fertility god?" She's like, "Yeah, probably."
And she's
And you'd
like, good
likely
eye,
find,
exactly.
good gods of the harvest, things
Sure.
like that. The
These
basic human
fundamental
needs.
principles in life, right? Yeah,
God of water.
absolutely. And and in Star Trek, there's lots of ways that we see that those become incorporated later on in cultures, right? Like the Vulcans saying those gods are the voices of our intuitions and impulses and deep psychological structures in us. You could call those the gods. Or the Klingons who say, well, they couldn't compete with the Klingon art. We just got rid of those things.
And they were a bit malevolent. It was best if they.
That's right. They weren't very good gods anyway. So now here we come to the real crux of the story. Her friend wants to know more about her. She says, I'd heard the story that you were supposed to be joined. Vana says, the truth of the matter is I had applied to be an initiate. That's all. She wasn't officially rejected. I didn't really get on well with my docent. I could tell things weren't going on well.
Didn't think she passed anyway, is what she gets at.
Exactly. She says, why wouldn't I go and do this, which I love far more immediately than wait for the potential of a rejection notice? And that's what she did. So she says she has yet to regret it. Now, this is when everything shifts. Her quarters, her sleep is interrupted in the night because the adjoined Trill on the expedition with them has been severely injured and is going to die. The Symbiosis Commission gave them her name as a potential viable candidate, which means she says, huh, I passed after all. And
that seems to happen, right? Like,
I think there's probably a lot of programs that
like Jadzia thought Curzon hated her and was going to fail her. I mean, and he did, but it's because like you find out later he had a crush on her, and that's weird. But like,
in some of these programs, in those kind of institutions, people do get to think of themselves as a kind of elite, a kind of a chosen few, right? And some of the way that they were hazed into a thing will get passed down in the way that they want to haze you into it, even if they're trying to be nicer, And I think that seems to be part of how that Trill institution seems to work, unfortunately. So she does accept Turon Lors's symbiote, the Lors symbiote, not one we've heard of before.
Yep.
And at first, she's given a little time to heal up, to recuperate, and then tries to get back to the job relatively quickly.
She finds like it's not kicking in, like she's just she's like, I sort of feel the same. And as if like the symbiote is withholding from her.
That's right. She said the doctor said that while the symbiote recovers from the trauma, there may be repression of the previous hosts. It's not likely she's going to reject it or it would have happened by now. But then all of a sudden, she's picking up an artifact, and
it's a baby.
I love these hands.
Really?
Look at those hands and the arm. Aren't they great?
They're
very clearly not her hands, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
They all got all that hair on the knuckles and everything.
Yeah.
Almost drops the artifact. Oh yeah, it really that really caught me right off the bat. It was like, what is going on in this picture? She has weirdly hairy hands.
Yeah, those are very large, hairy hands.
Yeah. It's like what is that? The Man Hands episode of Seinfeld.
She's getting man hands.
What's the deal with that? So she begins slowly. Oh, that's.
Oh
God. So she begins to have more of these episodes over the days. Thinks she's eating gah when she's not at one point.
They're getting visions from previous hosts.
Yeah. So she's got these surface details. A traveler, a performer, an engineer with a young son, it looks like. Those, as it turns out, were his hands if you look at them.
There.
So Turon, clearly the first host along, or most recent host, is the last one to come back.
Yeah.
So she feels, again, the symbiont feels anxious, afraid even all the time. Except for these hallucinations, it won't let her in, and it won't tell her why. Her patience is running out. So here, moving around on the surface, something almost falls on top of them. She decides she's not dealing with this enough, so decides to go back to the caves of, are they Malakath? No, the caves of Makala. She's worried something's wrong with the symbiote. That things might be disconnected. Her guide says time and trust are going to affect this healing, nothing more. That's what's going to happen. So she's on her way home, trying to make sense of her experiences, what's happening for her.
One thing I found about the construction of this issue is there's so many flashes of things. It sort of gets a little hard to follow at times.
Occasionally, yeah, I found there was a bit of disorientation. Here, she's coming home to her apartment and finds a note on the door which says, "You will never know peace." She doesn't know what's going on, why that might be left for her. She feels like he's losing her mind. All sorts of memories are coming back past her. All sorts of things. Trying to figure out what she did. She's deciding to go for a walk when all of a sudden she realizes she's being followed by this character here. She flees down an alley. Lost in her own mind again.
That's a good shot.
That's a great page, isn't it? I really like this page here. And decides eventually to stop running.
Yeah.
Picks up a pipe
or something.
And is getting ready to fight with it.
It's go time.
Indeed, it's go time. So, Lors. The fellow reveals himself.
Yeah. And do we say it? He's the baby.
He's the baby. Yeah. We're not sure how
the
this
end.
is
I will
going to
say
work.
this: the end of this issue again, because I have a kid now and everything hits me differently. the end of this issue hits kind of hard.
Mm-hmm. And this is interesting. This is the child of Lors and his wife at the time. I suspect it may be one life backward or a couple of lives
It
backward.
seems to be the.
But
Oh,
because
it
the
would have to be
symbiote is
like
very
it's
young,
you.
right?
It's
Yeah.
at least 3 or 4 because we'll find out why
Yeah,
that's the
exactly,
case in a
right.
second.
And so this fella, he says, "Are you really planning to attack me with that to finally finish the destruction of my family? I'll kill you for the last time," he says. What he's angry about is we see here, he says, "How could you reject her like that? She's your wife." But she's not anymore,
Yeah,
right?
he
A
wanted to
moment we saw
continue
with
this.
Dax
Yeah,
and her former spouse is precisely what we're dealing with here. Someone who couldn't accept the loss
yeah.
of their spouse and knew they lived on in the host, and
But
it
this
broke her.
child feels like it. His family didn't need to be broken up. It's just like, no, our family can continue because of this symbiont.
Hmm.
But it's
And
just nothing that we can do to fix it.
yeah, and he's angry that uh, whatever happened, the father died, the symbiont was transferred, and his rage transfers with the symbiont every time. They continue to fight. It's
We find out this fella has been killing off this symbiont like
several
hosts. Like
times.
so that's how we know it's a few symbionts removed.
Yeah.
This symbiont has been like going from person to person every year or two.
Yeah, we
Like
learned this a few pages. I should have mentioned that a few pages ago here.
yeah.
Back where she's in the caves of uh Macau, I think that's what they're called.
Makala was it? Or?
Makala, yeah. So here it is. You're the fourth host of the Lore's symbiont. On the other three hosts all died terribly young. For those who hold to such superstitions, they might even consider the Lore's symbiont cursed.
So kind of new symbiont, like a young one.
Yes. And so what becomes clear is that Murad, this fella,
Murad.
lost his father. Looks like to an illness, I'm guessing. And that his father told him the truth of the symbiont, that he would be
He would live on
he would
in the
survive
symbiont,
and
and
be
so would his
contained
love
memories.
for him. And I
Yes.
will always love you, but you can't have a relationship with that person. That person will love you, but you can't have a relationship with them, essentially. Which the kid
Yeah.
does not believe or like buy into that at all. There must be a
And
lot of this sort of conflict within Trill culture. Like,
I can only imagine that it's a really tough thing on families. Because the grief would be a very specific kind of disenfranchised grief. Really interesting.
no closure. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. And so she tells him, Murad, no, your father does still love you. I love you, essentially.
yeah.
And in the end, he's ready to do
Oh, see
himself
that
in.
shot. That shot
That's
kills
a
me on the next page. On the next
right
page.
here. Oh
Yeah.
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 This is so good.
Yeah.
This is really good. And it's like she's done a
Yeah, he's
rite of
about to kill himself.
dissociation.
Yep, she stops him in the father symbiote in her mind is just like, thank you for saving my son. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of a beautiful story. I think I'm talking to you about it now. I like it more. Like the
Yeah.
first time I read it through, I'm like, oh well, this isn't quite as good as the Klingon or the Ferengi solo issues that
Oh.
we read, but this is
It's
a
funny
pretty
because
good issue.
this is my favorite of the three.
Is
Uh
it
yeah. Yeah. My order was
more
I
than the
really
Klingon one?
I really liked the Lower Decks episode. I liked the
I
Klingon.
thought you said it was the other way around.
No. My order was
I thought you told me Lower Decks was your favorite.
We're running backwards on each other. That's funny.
Yeah,
No. I mean,
we had our order, and you're like, "That's the order of my preference."
yeah. Because Lower Decks was good. The Star Trek #2, I like that even better than Lower Decks. But this one I like best of all. Yeah. Oh man,
You
this
must
was a
have thought I
great
was
story.
talking. Okay, well, shit, you must have thought I was talking crazy during Lower Decks when I thought we were on the same page there. See, my
It's like
order
this is
probably
very interesting.
the opposite because I just love that whole Lower Decks comic run.
Well, yeah, it's
But
great.
but this Trill comic was good, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Those I hope they keep doing a whole lot of those because
These
they can
one
just
single issue
yeah
species comics,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
Let's
a
get a
great idea
Bolian
for a
one.
comic series.
Let's
That Bolian guy,
right. The
yeah,
Bolian guy could be the star of
that
it.
Bolian guy.
We
Yeah.
love that Bolian guy.
Oh, we here at Locutors of Trek
Whoever he
love that Bolian guy.
Okay, well,
That's
tell
right.
us then why is this your favorite issue?
Well, one of the things that I've always loved about Star Trek is the whole notion of the Trill symbionts. The fact that these like lifetime hopping creatures that keep growing and learning, but kind of start again as well every time. It's a really interesting metaphor for like the seasons of our own lives and how we sometimes have to work to integrate material from one time in our life into other times. Sometimes we find ourselves very different than we were a year or two or five ago. And sometimes, you look back and you think, I
One
might
would hope
hardly
we do.
recognize myself,
You
if
don't
I
want
could
to be
look
the same
ahead.
person you were 20 years ago.
No, I think some things we want to carry with us, but we want to keep
Yeah.
growing, right? And that I wouldn't recognize myself now if I saw myself 20 years ago isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that I am as incapable of scripting my life in the forward sense as anybody else is, right? And that's kind of the beauty of it. And this is one of the things I really loved about that. There was just a lot of really cool, conscious, unconscious, like thinking, feeling, memory integration happening. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
So
Yeah.
for me, I think where it lost me a bit, and talking, like I say, I like it a lot more now. Talking about, I think I needed
Hmm.
to read this one twice. I just found it a bit disjointed. The first read through, it was just a bit difficult to follow. And like it's only by the end of it that I realized what was happening. I was kind of confused. And then like,
Hmm.
oh, I see what's happening. And then like that last page kills me. And I
Oh
love that last page.
man. Yeah.
But like
Yeah. That last page is great.
I can't even
Uh,
I just can't like and like it felt sort of like symbiote stuff and Trill stuff we've seen before. But then
yeah.
again, when you get to the end, you see where it's a little different. It's not quite the Curzon Dax and his ex
Hmm.
ish or episode. It's not quite the one where Ezri's haunted by the past lives. Like it's a different take on that whole transfer of
Yeah.
symbiont thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
At
don't know.
first,
I
the
guess
story was
I
going to
guess
be
I
about
just
an
felt like
unjoined Trill.
the killer out to get them all thing seemed a bit cliche to me. It's really that last page that pulls the last two pages, I guess, that
Oh
pull
yeah.
this whole
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
together. And before
Because
that,
you're
I just wasn't
like,
quite with it. But it does really it is a cohesive thing once you get to the end. So I do
yeah.
see I do see why you're both fond of it.
Yeah. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah. It would make a great.
I agree with you though. These one shots need to keep coming. Give us
Oh
every
man.
species we've ever heard of. Give us a Zenkethy one. Like
Oh man. I want to see a Ferengi issue.
we have one.
Just
They've
so.
already done it.
Oh, is that the future is female?
Yeah, that's the Ferengi standalone issue.
Oh, were they the first one?
That was the
Oh
first one,
man.
which
Then
we'll
they.
cover again on this show because we've only done it in audio only
Yeah.
format. But I
Yeah.
like to show everybody that issue as well
Oh
because the future
man, they
female is a
did
great
that.
issue.
Oh man, they did that well. Yeah, that's
so they did that one, then
great.
they did the Klingon one, and now they've done this one. But we're obviously going to get a Vulcan one.
Oh yeah, Kazinti would be
Should be a
great.
Romulan one. Kazinti.
Andorian would be awesome.
Give me a friggin' a Zindi one. See what they're up to
Oh,
now. You know.
oh yeah, that'd be very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so headcanon or not?
Oh, I'd love to see this as a short. That'd be
Yeah.
wonderful. It
Oh
would be a
yeah.
great as a short trek, I think.
Or give us a follow up to what is her name? The lore symbiote. Let us know where the lore
Oh yeah,
symbiote is now, or something like that.
I'd
We're gonna
love to
pick
see
up
that.
on the lore symbiote, or even this
Yep.
Vana character.
Yeah, she was interesting.
Headcanon for me as well.
She could run into Vosh and get into trouble. It'd be great.
Yeah, likely. Who can't?
Vosh is trouble for anybody.
She is. Let's get Vosh into that into an adventure with that lower decks Vosh type character.
I thought you meant into an adventure with Dracula.
No, he would know where some sweet antiques are, I bet.
He might. He does have an
He
awful lot of
might.
knowledge in that holographic head now.
He does.
Yeah, man.
Well, I guess that's the end of our Trekle Trunk for tonight.
It
You can
is.
find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can contact us at locutorsoftrek@gmail.com. Did you know Locutors of Trek is a division of Live Long and Podcast? We've been absorbed by my cousins.
Into a collective.
and our now united empire. Our our united federation of podcasts, if you will.
Our technological and audio significance was added to their own.
It was, wasn't it? They were after
Yep.
our technological significance for sure.
Yeah.
We are the Locutors of Trek. Check us out. We have audio podcasts. We do lots of things. We launch probes.
Indeed.
We do challenges.
Vigorous probes. Indeed.
Kapla is right. We just did a Geek Tall. We did Trouble with Trivia last night. Check that out as well. That was fun.
Oh, how'd you do?
Should I spoil it?
Oh no, I'll watch it. I didn't get to watch it last night.
Once we stop.
All
I'll
right.
tell you what happened.
We'll leave the viewer in suspense.
You'll be in the next one though, because we're trying to round up a competition for cousin Dave.
All right.
So we need a proper
champion. I'll do what I can.
Yeah, I know.
That guy's a beast.
Well, you did all right here.
That's true. I didn't do bad in the Geek Tall.
Yeah.
I
think Galrod really likes you.
Well, after I suggested we slay the council, he seemed to really perk up.
That's true. He really warmed up on you after
that.
Cousin Dave did not want to slay the council. Galrod was very confused.
He was super diplomatic, very Starfleet about it.
Live Long and Podcast. There we all are. There's Dave. Look at him smiling with his face there. What are you doing there?
I know. I'm the only one who gets a phaser. I'm very happy.
And you're pretty happy about it. Check out the Command Division. Where they do the episode reviews. They're over there doing that right now.
Yeah.
They're reviewing the first Zindi episode actually.
Oh, nice.
Over there right now on Enterprise at 8. Check out the Ops Division, which is Star Trek Radio Theater. We're doing Star Trek 5. I play Cybok on Friday. And then we'll be doing this Lower Decks issue, 3 issues. So we're going to make a radio theater out of that. Nice. Dave will not be Dracula, cousin Dave will, but Dave will be somebody. And check out our Science Division. That's basically where we launch probes, do Geek Talls, do Trouble with Trivia. And then there's, of course, our little side Locutors of Trek Division.
That's true.
Dave and I talk deep about things, Star Trek. And
yes.
And do this, Trekle Trunk.
That's true.
We talk deep about comics too. Also check out X-Rated, the X-Men Anime Review Show, my X-Men show with Andre Mayette. We're interviewing Alison Seeley Smith, the voice of Storm, tomorrow. Starting to get nervous, but I'll deal with it. Andre threatened to not show up just to compound my nerves.
What a helper.
What a guy. Check out his podcast anyway. Graphic History
Funny
podcast.
Guy.
Funny guy.
Check
out his podcast. Also check out Hold Up. That's me and Murphy's movie podcast. We're going to do Christmas movies. The Apartment, Gremlins, and Tokyo Godfathers. Haven't watched that one yet, but I got some things to say about The Apartment. Let me tell you right now. And Gremlins.
Yeah.
Gremlins is gorgeous. It's great.
Well,
Check out Super Mater Brothers. Yeah, if you want to hear me go off on a rant, tune in to hear me talk about The Apartment on Wednesday. Super Mater Brothers, they do your reality show reviews. They do that very well over there. KBBL podcast. That's my Simpsons podcast. We're 3 issues into that, or episodes into that now. That's been fun. That's been a good time. Murphy and me, me, Baker, and Francis talk about that. Check out Trivial Debates. We should get you on Trivial Debates sometime, Dave.
Love to.
The Christmas one's coming up on Sunday. I'll be taking part in that. Cousin Dave's the host. And also check out the Hellbound podcast with, really. No, it's not trivia, it's debates.
Oh! Yeah, Mithras is the original Christmas!
Let's fight about it.
All right. You'll be sorry.
I'm on team Saturnalia.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I just want to get naked and stuff. That's so wrong.
It's very Roman.
so is. Check out the Hellbound podcast with Michael Chan and Alex Blackburn, and that's our federation. And so check out all those things. You won't regret it. Any final thoughts? Well, it's the final word. I know that.
Well, yeah. No, I think these are great comics. I hope they keep more coming. I hope they can find a way. Let's get the pressure on to keep Lower Decks coming because they're great. But apart from that, end transmission.